sort of takes care of everything. Laptop, I believe, fell asleep on us. Hopefully I don't have that same effect here. Yeah. All right. I'm going to try to wing it. This clicker. Okay, so as Cale mentioned, and we're on videotape too?
Yeah, we are.
Pressure's on this morning. I'm here to talk to you about my experience on the group study exchange that took place this past April. And this is District 7570, which we're in, and we went to the Southern Caribbean, which is District 7030. Now, a component of the program is a vocational exchange. So essentially, in our line of work, we're paired with individuals in the host countries in a similar profession. We share thoughts, processes, and ideas, and we bring that information back to our country. So when I found out about the program, I was a little curious because even though that was a great description of some of the things that GIS is, I very often experience the following scenario, which I'm just going to play out for you. And I meet someone new and I explain to them what I do. So I'm in sales. What do you do? Knowing how this is going to play out, I work with geographic information systems. Cartography is an element of my profession. I make maps sometimes. Okay. Google? Oh yeah, Google. And they understand and I cry a little bit inside. So that exchange takes place here in this country. I was very curious, what's it going to be like when I go overseas, when I go abroad? So I'll do my best to convey some of those experiences, although when I presented, and I'm just starting my timer now, last week I got through about 2 of my countries and just kind of barely glazing over. I think you probably know from your trip to Australia you could spend an entire time slot just covering one country. So this program we went on 4 different countries for a week each hosted us. So who here has been part of a GSE team? Okay, we've got 1 as team members, 3, okay, and team leaders as well. Okay, all right, excellent. I'd love to hear about your experience. Just a little information about the program. It began in 1965, and it was designed as a vocational exchange for young professionals, for non-Rotarians, to get them involved in the program, to learn about it, and to do a cultural exchange as well. The story goes for our exchange here is that past District Governor Dick Ray met past District Governor Wadi Soma from District 7030 at District Governor Training School, and they really hit it off and were inspired to implement this program between our 2 districts. So this map that I made here showcases the 2 districts. It looks a lot better in person. You can see the difference in the geographic extent, and you really have to get it to those. And of course, you're all very familiar of the district governor here in our district now, who's, I'm sure, traversing the western half of our state. And here you can see all of the northern tip of the islands here in this district and the Southern Caribbean, all the way down to the main continent, South America, down to French Guiana. They've got a large region to cover, and it was just great for us to be able to really experience all of the cultures. And even though we only were hosted by 4 of them, when we were trying to make our way from Guyana, which was our 3rd stop, to Suriname, we flew north and hopped on probably about, they call it a milk run, I think maybe four islands, exchanging to get to eventually Barbados to make our way back down to Suriname. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but we were prepared for it because to get to District 7030, to get to Trinidad and Tobago, we actually flew up to Canada to transfer. But that was, it was great to add another country to my list, having not ever been out of the United States before. So, one thing that I didn't mention is that the program is designed for non-Rotarians to, again, get them interested and learn about Rotary, and you have a Rotarian team leader. And so this is kind of the locations, the origins of all of us that comprise our team and the different areas within our district. So you can see me, I'm in Area 1, northernmost, and going south, you've got Harrisonburg, which are actually my old stomping grounds, in Rockingham County, Area 3, and then Area 5, Lynchburg, and then Area 9, Harrisburg, and then our team leader was from Christiansburg, also Area 9. God bless this woman. She is long tenured with the Rotary Club, did an excellent job representing Rotary. She's a Paul Harris Fellow and retired librarian. She really held it together for us in sometimes pretty strenuous situations. So nothing but amazing things to say about Miss Paula. And then of course we've got Jessica Arrington. She works in nonprofit for a group called Rise Against Hunger. Very familiar with that? Great. Yeah. It was wonderful to have someone like that on the trip because all of the different Rotary projects that we visited, she had a sort of an in for figuring out how can we get that going back here on the country, and having those connections was really beneficial. And my buddy Tyler, who never met the guy prior to, but we have been living at one point even in the same apartment complex while I was down in Harrisonburg, which we later found out. He's a financial advisor. I thought this was kind of funny. It emphasizes the cultural exchange component of the program. Is that when we were in Martinique, which we found out to be a 90%, 100% primarily French-speaking country, you go there and it's very common for us to think, okay, we speak English, everyone speaks English, but when you're in Martinique, they speak French, and you should speak French too. So it's very funny because his translation for his vocation down there, it kind of just came out to be he was businessman. So for the rest of the trip, he was, and still is, businessman anytime I talk to him. And then good friend now, Zach, a former golf pro turned lawyer, but really he's just a fisherman, a fly fisherman that's masquerading around as a lawyer. And he'll tell you that. And then of course me, and I was sponsored by the Rotary Club of Front Royal, and I'm just very thankful for them giving me this opportunity to apply to the program, to be accepted. And as I said, I presented there last week, and I'm just very thankful to be able to present to you all and to your club today, as I keep an eye on the clock here, because having gone to all of these countries, and I think we've presented some odd 20 plus clubs, I know the importance of getting in and getting out. So we're going to try to do it, but as I said earlier, it's just I'm really remiss putting this presentation together, because all I can really do is just glaze over these moments, and there were so many influential exchanges that I had that shaped me as a person. But we'll just, like I said, just try to give you those flashes as quickly as possible. And if you have any other questions for me afterwards, if you want to learn more about any particular projects, I'm going to touch on one of them. Feel free, I'll have my email address, and like I said, love to exchange stories with you. So District 7030, you can see some stats up there on the screen. 71 Rotary clubs, 47 Rotaract, 71 Interact. You can see the languages, English, French, and then Dutch, which I was surprised to see that was the language in Suriname. However, they also spoke English just as fluently. First stop was Trinidad and Tobago. You can see the capital port Spain there, 1.3 million, primary language English, 22 Rotary clubs. Yes, we visited every one of those within 7 days. Yeah, we were thankful that at one of the meetings, some of them were all combined, so that was nice. The schedule, as amazing as it was, I should have put the schedule up there just so you could kind of glance over it. It lent itself to being very, very quick, boom, 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 driving around, learning as much as you can, taking notes, taking pictures, and I put this one up here because this is sort of the environment, and again, having never been overseas before, it was just, everything was breathtaking to me, but in particular, this is the northwestern portion of Trinidad, and you can see just those overlooks were everywhere, and all you had to do is just drive 5 minutes. But that's not unfamiliar to us because we know how beautiful our geography is here too. So that was nice to have that, but then to have the mountains and the ocean, that's a beautiful combination. Being a guy that's very in love with the ocean, Outer Banks is kind of my place. But I put this picture up here because it sort of emphasizes what I was talking about in terms of the schedule. You can see the attire of the three gentlemen there in the back. You've got me, who fortunately, I guess I had a swimming wear on me somehow on my persons, but businessman is full clad business attire. He's working on a smile there, but that was the first time that we got to the beach in Trinidad. I think that was on day 4. We were at Maracas Beach. So for the rest of the trip, he just carried a full-blown suitcase with him. Just everything. Businessman was prepared after that.
Notice everybody else looks like they're working, and you look like you've been surfing.
Yeah, and you know, I'm working on the best smile I can too, but I think I was in the water for about 5 minutes, and then we got the whistle, come on back, and there's also another picture where I'm just going, no. But touching down in that ocean and just being out there and looking at the mountains on the beach, it's phenomenal. So to the projects, this is just, again, a few examples, and most of this actually occurred on one day here on this slide. But we met the mayor of San Fernando, and this is a pan-yard lime, which is the music of the Southern Caribbean is fantastic. And this is a band called Skiffle, and it's kind of cool that they're supported by the city government there, San Fernando, and they have their own band, and they travel and they tour, and we got to view one of their programs and listen to them, and it was really amazing. That's a shark and bake down there in the bottom right-hand corner. You essentially fried shark, put it on a piece of bread, and you pick some colors, and you hope that you can handle it. So I thought I had something going on. I thought I could handle some hot sauce when I traveled here. But when you try the scorpion sauce, you can't walk into that with an ego, because I was telling our host family that first night that they made dinner for us, he offered some of the sauce. I said, yeah, I can do hot sauce, and then he sort of looked at me, just with a twinkle in his eyes, and he pulled out this orange vial of scorpion sauce. One drop, I can still taste it. This is Tobago here. Again, visiting all of the Rotary clubs and their projects. This is one really cool one, again, sort of touched home to me because of the environmental aspect of the project, the club, and then this individual here who's sort of leading the restoration of the mangroves in Tobago, really adopted an amazing project, and really want to go back there, but pictures will have to do for now. Vocational visits, again, each individual got paired with someone in their line of work in the other country. In this one, I've got a picture of Zach, who, being a lawyer, and he's with Debbie there, and that was also in San Fernando. We visited the Haven of Hope project, which orphanages and pairings between the Rotary clubs were definitely a large portion of what was being done in Trinidad. So any information that you'd like on that afterwards, please feel free to ask me. They're always in need of toiletry and things of those natures. They're expanding their facility, and it was great to meet with the kids and see what kind of work that they're doing there. Trinidad East, and I'm seeing here now I'm at the 12-minute mark, and again, I've not gone through one country, so just every region of Trinidad had its own flair, its own flavor. In particular, I'm presenting this because the Rotary Club of Maracas adopted their project, which was a waterfall restoration. And one of the issues that Trinidad and Tobago face is lack of financial diversity in terms of what's driving the economy. It's essentially basically the natural resources, and gas, of course, and oil, and they've been relying on that for a long time, and having a lack of diversity really puts them in a tough spot when, of course, they're not actually striking oil. So this, I think, project, being able to drive tourism to support jobs, because you would think, I mean, I guess I thought, having not been there before, that, okay, Trinidad, yeah, I'm sure there's like a lot of things to do there. I'm sure that would be a great place to visit. But if people are going to the Southern Caribbean, they're going to St. Lucia. They're not going to Trinidad, and they're not experiencing really that culture so much. But being able to do this, you get to take in breathtaking views, to pretty much just see what this club was doing and efforts to try to extend their project, but over time, lack of support from the government, it sort of just kind of, when we went there and visited it, I don't have the pictures of it, but there's a lot of shambles, and it was sort of a shame that just people go there and they just dump their trash, they leave it, it gets into the sanitation system and of the villages nearby, and so it was just really sad, and this club was so passionate about it because they put their heart and soul into it, and then to just have something several years ago that flourished for just a moment, but then has sort of just degraded since. It was really hard to see when you think of the potential that it could be, and I have all sorts of documentation and research on this. Another aspect of our program was to essentially try to come back with a project that we were passionate about, to speak about it to other clubs, and to see if there would be interest in potentially working on a global grant. And so this one, like I said, it touches on two aspects, of course, the economic aspect and sanitation in terms of Rotary projects that would qualify for global grants. So if you have any other questions or would like to see the documentation that I have, I'd love to share that with you. So then we made our way to Martinique, and that was probably the first sort of, I guess, challenge that we faced in terms of not really being fully prepared for the fact that you don't have a translator, and you're paired with an individual that doesn't speak your language, and you're staying with them for 7 days, and there was a lot of just sort of back and forth. But by the end of it, we had at least been able to convince each other that we could understand what we were talking about. But beautiful environment again. Where I stayed was in the southern portion of the island. That's Les Diamonds, and that's a historic kind of area in terms of battles that took place and the history of the island. Our host, Oliver, there, he picked us up from the airport sometime at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't know. We stayed about 40 minutes away from all the other clubs, so I'm just, after week one, I'm going, okay, 3 weeks, we can do this, I can do this, get pumped up, let's start to talk and converse. It's 4 o'clock in the morning though, I'm tired, and we can't speak to one another, and we're in this car for 40 minutes. But found out that he could speak about 10% Spanish, and I could speak about 7% Spanish. So you had a Frenchman and an Englishman speaking poorly broken Spanish to one another during the car ride, and I thought that was pretty interesting, and this kind of showcases the cultural component to it. Again, all of the Rotary projects. Terry, he was kind of our point person while we were there, and we only found out until like 5 days into the trip that he actually really couldn't speak 100% fluent English, but he had us convinced that he could. But he could certainly speak more English than we could speak French, so we were very fortunate to have him and his energy and spirit. This Rotary project was the Rotary Club du Lamentin, and I thought it was a great project that they had annually, where the clubs pair together, and essentially what you do as parents, you come and you drop your children off at an airport hangar, and then you go. That's great.
Like it.
Yeah. And so it's great for the parents, and it's fascinating for the kids because you can see there's juggling there's games, there's a stage, there's a show, and then they have pilots at the hangar that take the kids up into the air for a 20-minute flight around the island, and it was just fantastic. And special needs and those without special needs, all were welcome, and you could just really tell that this was something that people look forward to every year. So fantastic project. Vocational, again, really couldn't speak the language, but I did have someone translating for me. The only kind of unfortunate aspect was that, you know, they're translating sort of technical terms, and so we're going back and forth, but sometimes with GIS all you need to do is just see it, and it was really cool to see that they're pretty advanced, more so than I would have thought in terms of their web applications and the things that the country is launching as initiatives, and that's something that I'm pushing it home here too. Surveying, we learned a lot about how surveying was integral into the operations on all of the countries that we visited. Then Guyana was the third stop there. Kaieteur Falls, 741 feet, it was beautiful. Again, they have this beautiful natural resource that's available to them. Fortunately, this is protected, much to the chagrin of the gold miners there. So it's protected by the country, and it's something that you can go to. You have to take a little crop plane to fly out to it. But we were so fortunate to be able to do that, and then go on a little nature walk where you see this little guy, and the picture doesn't show it, but he's about that big. And while you're walking around on the, you sort of just open up this huge green plant, and you look for these tiny little yellow frogs. So a cool little aspect to that as well. Then we went to an eco resort. Our lady companions, they thought that it was like a resort. Didn't really realize that on our third week that the resort that we were going to, solar powered. It doesn't have the fresh water that you would imagine, but us guys, we were really pretty pumped because this whole time we thought, well, we're going to be fishing in all these countries. It's going to be awesome. And, no, that was the one instance of catching a fish there. So we're really proud of our baby mudcat. But that was Arrow Point Nature Reserve, and that was a very cool recreational experience. Our hosts were fantastic. Again, I could go on and on and on, but this was the individual that we were fortunate enough to stay with, Andrew Boyle, who actually just won this past year the Entrepreneur Laureate Award of the Southern Caribbean in 2018. And I think he found out about it while we were staying there. And it's just a fascinating story. He's the third of 10 children, grew up on a farm, and worked his way into being a lead microbiologist and forming Eureka Medical Laboratories down there in Guyana. He's also formed a solar company, and he's doing so much to bring in jobs and work for those in Guyana, and it was just, his outlook on life was amazing, and it was wonderful to just be able to share that amount of time with him. I had to put Ginny up there too, because she was working with Derry here, a retired doctor who Jessica and Paul were staying with, and they were taking care of her 109-year-old aunt. So, something to that coconut rum deal.
Never go back.
So many amazing projects. The Buxton Youth Developers was one. In the bottom right-hand corner, I'm getting schooled by this young lad in table tennis, which was awesome. And it's just, they're utilizing sports to keep these kids out of trouble and to stay interested in school. And this was just really a fascinating project that the Rotary Club was partnered with. Toy libraries, mobile library. This one also very cool. They are installing wells and these villages and supplying them with fresh water. And this project got presented at the district conference in Suriname by this club in Guyana. And I was fortunate enough to be able to. They needed a map for it, so I was like, I got you. I can do it. So this is the map that we made of where they are installing these wells, and you can see that the resource that is creating for that country. And I'm just going to try to fly through the rest of this here. Very strong Rotaract presence. I don't know, I've lived my whole entire life and I had never heard about Rotary as an organization prior to coming here to Warren County. Certainly hadn't heard of the GSE program. And so of course I was unaware of Rotaract and Interact, and that is something that I'm not sure how that correlates here. I was talking to Paula about it, but these children, I mean, the Rotarians have come up through this entire program, and meeting these young 20-year-olds and seeing how impressive they were, and you could just tell that the whole organization and the whole component of kind of leveling up in the system just does wonders for these children who are very just articulate, great humors, and professional, and just very, very intelligent. So just nothing but good things to say about the whole program in general and its sort of development aspect as well. Again, Rotary Club presentations there in Guyana. We finally made it to Suriname. I'm going to just get through this here real quick. I know we're ready to start our day here, right? We finally made it to Suriname on our 4th week. That's past District Governor Wadi there, who's very happy to have us. They welcomed us with a banner, and again, the recreation, we got one recreation day where we were able to visit another sort of eco-resort related facility. That is a tour, that big beetle that I'm holding, and pretty incredible thing. You just don't want to let it get stuck to you because it won't release. Fortunately, we didn't encounter that experience, but just to be able to experience something like that, it was very neat. This vocational visit, this is the closest to what we have here, where there is a sort of, in this instance, it's actually, they called it sort of a pseudo-government, where it's a private institution that is GIS, and what they do is they manage sort of all of the components that you might see within our courthouse, our commissioner revenue systems, our GIS, and real estate. All of that is sort of managed through this this company here in Suriname, and they're instituting a lot of initiatives, and it's very cool to see them. They're sort of in their ground up phase. Maybe they're back maybe about 10 years from where GIS is here, but they're instituting it the right way. They had consultants that were working on the program, and it was very interesting to speak and meet with them. And then of course our pre-district conference. That is us presenting at our district conference, and everyone was very receptive. We had a great time, and of course took what wound up being something very common, the group selfie. So if you'll indulge me, we're going to do that again here today. Yeah, we did it. We got through. Thank you. All right. And so just coming back, yeah, again, the rum thing. Every country had the best rum. They believed it, and they wanted you to experience it too. You see the before and after, and of course, after a month of traveling, even though the food was amazing, everything was amazing, just coming back and being able to have the Apple House was also that was a good barbecue. It's always good, but that was particularly good. Thank you very much for having me.